right, welcome. Hey guys, I'm Steve Richards, and welcome to the CEO Nation Weekly Training and Coaching Call. Let's see. Looks like we got a handful of people hopping on already. Good to see you guys. We're live on Facebook. So what's up there if you're watching live or if you're catching the replay in the Facebook group? Know that you can log into these Zooms live every Monday at 3:30. Let me tell you guys, I'm going to do some housekeeping here in a second, but I want to tell you guys first. So today we're going to talk about, is coaching really worth it? And what I'm going to run through is just a basic checklist of what you should expect from coaching and why you would do coaching. And I think I've got a couple interesting pieces in there that maybe you haven't thought of about what you should be getting out of it and what coaching is good for. And then what's also cool is I'm going to run through how I personally justify spending money on coaching and how I set up, I guess it's just a little bit of a system for me to look at what my return is going to be. So we're going to talk about that. And I think Bobby isn't on here right now, but I'm going to go ahead and commit for him that I'll be able to put this into a checklist that I'll send out to you guys, or a sheet that has kind of a high level summary of what we talk about today. Because I know it's kind of hard to listen to me cover things and not see it in writing, but we're gonna break into that and talk a little bit about it, and then I'm gonna make time for Q&A like I always do. If you guys want to talk about coaching stuff, that's cool, but I'm also open to anything here. In about maybe 30-45 minutes, we'll have a little bit of time at the end to discuss anything you guys need in your business. What I want these Monday calls to be about is, the reason in the CEO Nation that we do these is because I used to go sit down, have coffee with everybody and have lunch. And I would spend hours and hours and hours with just a handful of people. And now we can record hours and hours of content that I think will be helpful. And I actually know will be helpful. And then not only can you guys log in live and interact with me or hear this live, but you can watch all the replays on the Facebook group. So it's just a more efficient use of time, allows me to connect with more people. So this is kind of like taking me to lunch. Or picking my brain or going to coffee. When I get to the Q&A section, it's whatever you may need: business partnerships, marketing, cash flow, sales, hiring, team building, whatever in your business we can help. The whole goal of the CEO Nation is to help you transform and transition from an entrepreneur who might be hustling and really just self-employed into a business owning CEO. And so your business should be an asset that supports you. And many business owners get melded, and their business is them and they're their business, and it's kind of all one. And a lot of times it's just like it's not a side hustle, but it's a self-employed gig, to where if you don't go to work, your business isn't making money. And so most people think they own a business, really own a job, and they don't gain the benefit out of owning a business, which is having a great income and generating wealth, but also is buying your time back. Many times, the more income we generate in our business, or the more revenue we generate, the more of our time it takes. And the other thing that sucks, which I know firsthand because this happened in my first real business that I ran for 10 years, was that the more people I hired, the busier I got. The more revenue I did, the smaller my margin actually got. And so growing for the sake of growing a lot of times has this weird impact in your quality of life, and your income per hour worked actually goes down. And that's not like a slight chance that'll happen. It's a pretty good probability that will happen if you don't set up a true business. And we talk about the 4 pillars of freedom in the CEO Nation all the time, but it's setting up a good foundation for your business, a revenue model that's profitable and consistent, repeatable, and then knowing who, how, when to hire to build a team around that. And then having the 3rd pillar is having a management system to manage the team who's executing your business model. And if you don't set something up with those 3 pillars in play, you don't have a lot of stability. But like a 3-legged stool, which is pretty sturdy, if you can add a 4th leg to that, make it like a chair, it's a lot more stable. And what that is when you set your business up to be aligned with what you want personally, because now you'll be way more interested in it, more engaged, and the more benefit when the business is producing value and income, and that's benefiting you even more. You tend to pour more into it. You also tend to figure out how to align your purpose in your life with your business. And that's a powerful place to get. So I'm kind of digressing here. I'm gonna pull back to what we're going to talk about today, which is coaching. Is it worth it? What should you be getting out of it? I'm gonna give you guys some very specific topics here. Bobby's just joined us, so hey, Bobby.
Hey, Steve, sorry, it wasn't letting me select join. It was only giving me a start option. So I'll go ahead and throw the link in there now and my email address for everybody in the chat.
All right, guys. So yeah, Bobby's going to put a link in there. The CEO Nation, it's the ceonation.com/links/links. You guys can set up strategy sessions with us, access our KPI guide, connect to the Facebook group if you're not already in there, get a registration link for this Monday webinar we do that I'm on right now, and a few other things. And so also with Bobby's email in there, don't be afraid to hit him up anytime with questions on anything. If you want some of the content we've had in the past, or you have questions on what we can do, services, or if you want to talk to us, especially if you want to talk about maybe being on one of these Monday upcoming Zooms where we do a free coaching call to analyze and break down a certain part of your business. We're interested in doing more of that. And so we can just give some free advice and help to you, but also do it, record it so we can provide that information to other folks as well. We know that's very helpful when we do that. So, all right, with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to start with just the basics. Let me see. I got some chats here. So Alencia, I can't tell. Can you guys all hear me? If you guys are having trouble hearing me, tell me. Well, I guess you can't tell me. If you guys hear me okay, let me know. I think you might have put that in earlier. I was muted at first. Okay, cool. All right. So I'll try to watch the chat, guys. If you have questions along the way, just hit me up. And then, like I said, don't be afraid with any business questions. When I wrap through this current training part of it, I want to make sure I'm available to answer any other questions you got. So, all right, with coaching, I think there's a few basic things that people, that they understand coaching should provide. And the top couple are instruction, advice, and accountability. If those three things aren't clear to you, or you weren't thinking that, I'll put it like this: like, instruction is kind of the how and what to do. So a coach can come alongside and say, hey, look, put their arm around you and say, look, here's how you do this thing you need to do now. Or, hey, what you're doing can be done differently. Or, hey, you should stop doing. Sometimes that's what we have to say as coaches. But it's more about how things are done and what is being done. So like if maybe we need to coach on sales conversion, we might say, look, what you need to be doing on these calls is building rapport so you can gain trust. How you need to build rapport is by figuring out a non-scripted way of qualifying your prospect while you're getting to know them. And you're also looking for personal connections so they can relate to you better, right? And feel more comfortable, and they start to like you better, which means they open up. And the more that happens, that's rapport being built. And so when you can have rapport and authority, which is, dropping little hints about how you're different, how you can help, and relating that to their situation. So this rapport and authority together will gain some trust. And along the way of generating rapport, we're also getting to know this person. And while we're getting to know them, it's not just so that I, know cool facts about the person and can relate. When you're uncovering the rapport conversation, a lot of times facts, or the rapport discussion, a lot of times facts about their situation start to bubble up to the top. Those are the things that you need to, pay close attention to, because that may help you understand how to help this client better. What are their needs? What are their wants? Things like that. Now, it depends on what kind of business you're in. Of course, I'm talking about one that has a heavy sales conversion. If you're just, if you have an eBay store and people are signing up, I always say eBay, Amazon store. I date myself when I say eBay. But if you have an Amazon store and your sales conversion is just having pretty pictures and, easy to click buttons and really your hard work is generating the traffic to your page. Maybe this doesn't apply, but as this example, I'm talking about what you need to do during the sales process. As a coach, I might give a lot of that what, which is more the philosophy, right? But the how would be like, look, here are some questions you can ask. Here are common ways to endear yourself to someone. Here are the kinds of questions that get people to open up. Here are the kinds of things you can say to put somebody more at ease. Like that's the how you would do it. And potentially we might talk about how to write those notes into a CRM so that other people, if they're following up with that prospect in the future, can follow along and they can call up and it might be a different person and they call up and they start right back where the other person left off. And they're like, hey, cool. Looks like X, Y, and Z happened. And you talked to this person and that's really cool. And you immediately bring them back and all the rapport you already generated, you gain some of that back right away, even if it's 6 months later, right? So as a coach, that's what I mean by instruction, the what and the how. A coach should be able to give you that kind of information while they're supporting you so that you can be more tactical. This is very, this is strategic and tactical, but this is very like in the business on how and what to do. Advice is a little different because although instruction is kind of walking somebody through the what and the how, advice is kind of more of a why. And so instruction was the first thing I talked about. The second one I want to talk about is advice. And so some of this gets pretty tactical, but advice encompasses more of an open format and many times might leverage more into the why category, which is way more strategic. And so we're always looking for someone as a coach who's been where we want to go, someone who has done what we've want to do, right? Because they can give us advice and they can impart knowledge and wisdom. And I think that's really important. And then thirdly, in a coach, which again, I think these are kind of the top tier things you're looking for, or maybe the minimum criteria, right? Is accountability. What is this person going to do to help you be accountable? If they're like, look, I'm going to give you some information and you go make it happen. That's not accountability. Accountability is like, look, you've got to report to me in this way. We're going to have these calls. I'm going to be looking for this feedback. I'm going to be looking to, see your metrics. I know one of the things I do with my most successful clients who really run with things is they include me in their metrics. Once we've set up the metrics and we've got what we do in our program is get a very detailed picture of an audit and assessments of you and all your team members of where you are currently, get a really crystal clear picture. And then we're going to set just as clear, future state where you want to be. And then we're going to create an action plan to get there by actually working backwards with creating quarterly milestones along the way, but we're deconstructing those into monthly plans. And we're usually planning 1 or 2 months out in advance, but those monthly plans become more detailed where you have weekly meetings to check in on things and you have daily tasks you're looking for. All of that stuff can be put into literally a Google Sheet. And so once we've done this initial audit assessment and then we've built out where you're headed and we've reverse engineered this and we said, here's the numbers to track. Your daily action plans need to be do this, this, and this, right? And so that it rolls up and you have a good month. And then this month, the plan is a little different going into the next month and the next month, and that's your quarter. And a lot of times we're focusing on 90-day windows more intensely than the whole, the whole big picture. We set the big picture, then we come back to the quarter. We focus on the quarter. And so when we're doing that, if I can get to a position as a coach, or if you have a coach, anyone you hire, if they've got a way to have privileged, look, like be privy to your numbers, that is super important because number one, they can give better advice and instruction because they can see your numbers, the first two things. But the third thing on the accountability is just knowing that they're going to look at that stuff instead of me just saying, hey, you should track your numbers, right? That's what someone might say. And this is why it's important, right? But if I broke down, I help you say, this is how you should do it. This is what you should be doing. and then the accountability piece of I'm going to watch these things weekly and connect with you. Those three pieces, in my opinion, are like the bare minimum you should be looking for out of a coach. Again, it's instruction, advice, and accountability, because that's going to give you the ability to, I guess, take, again, at a minimum, but that's going to give you an impactful amount of what you need to actually move your business forward. Because getting information alone, like, again, just here's some basic information, go run with it, that's not going to be as effective, because many entrepreneurs, and if you guys, let me see how many, I know several of you guys. What's up to the newbies, by the way? Don't shoot me a note if you're new, so we can connect. But yeah, a lot of you guys on here, I'm not going to call names out, but a lot of you guys are probably like me. Having new information and ideas is not your problem. Your biggest issue isn't, oh, I need a bunch of new ideas and I need creative thinking, and I need philosophy. Like, that stuff comes pretty naturally. Quite frankly, not only is it our superpower as visionaries, but it's also our kryptonite. When we face opposition, we can get overly creative, and we can get, start doing stuff we shouldn't do, and start second businesses, or rework an entire business model because it's not working the way we want. Instead of tweaking it and fixing what we want, we revamp the whole thing, and we change our whole model. We're going to do something a little different, or we change what our team does, right? And we make these wholesale changes in our business. So getting more information is not usually an issue for an entrepreneur, but instruction, advice, and accountability are components that any, especially a classic visionary, really needs as an entrepreneur. So here's a couple other things. I'm going to go into, like, if you guys have questions on that, let me know, by the way. But here's a couple other things in coaching that I've noticed that I appreciate, and I try to exemplify when I'm coaching, but I also appreciate it when I'm hiring a coach. So one is a sounding board for ideas. Many times, especially if you have a team, it's really hard. I don't know if some of you guys on here, I know you have teams. If you're a solopreneur, it's really hard because nobody really understands you, right? And even if you have a mastermind, which is better than nothing, if you see each other once a quarter, or you connect remotely, like, it's not the same as having a close connection with someone who really is deep and understands your business. But when you have someone who you see as a counterpart, or a respectful, person that's ahead of you in the game, it gives you a nice sounding board. And if you have a team, what I was going to say a minute ago, I ran into this with my first business, or my first larger business I built, where if I came in with ideas and I would just kind of, throw mud on the wall, so to say, with ideas, it's crazy. Because first of all, once the company got big, I never wanted to be there. So I would leave a lot, and I would come in with ideas and throw some things around. And then I would leave. And then when I would come back, like, we would hire somebody brand new, and I'm like, who's this? Like, literally people were hired I'd never met. And I'm like, who's this? And they're like, oh, we hired them to do X, Y, and Z, that idea that you had last week. And I would be like, no, I slept since then. Like, I decided that's not a good idea. I was just thinking out loud. And I realized I've got to be super careful about where I pitch my ideas, because if it's a really good idea that everybody likes and I decide not to do it, I let them down. If it's a crazy idea, they might be thinking like, this is crazy, and they're worried. Or if it's just, a massive distraction to them, like, that's an issue as well, because my ideas are distracting them from the goal at hand. And so having that sounding board is really cool. Another one is affirmation. Like, this one might sound a little weird, but it just deepens your confidence when someone can affirm you and what you're doing, and tell you that, hey, you're doing great. Like, you've already taken steps other people can't take. And by the way, this thing you're doing here is really good. And so getting confirmation and affirmation for the things that you're doing that are good, we tend to beat ourselves up. as entrepreneurs, and we're never, we mix up content and satisfied, and we're dissatisfied with where we are, but we mix that up with being discontent, and so we're not happy, and it's the struggle, and we forget to celebrate our wins, which I'm terrible about. And so getting affirmation and confirmation for what is working, not only does it make you feel better when someone can tell you that stuff, but it's nice confidence booster when someone says, this one thing you're doing right here is really good, this other thing is really good, like keep doing those things. And then you can just lean into those and kind of put your brain power elsewhere. So a couple other things that are interesting along those same lines of the sounding board and the affirmation is, might be a little weird one, but like camaraderie, because it's kind of lonely at the top, especially again like a solopreneur. But you feel like you're alone. But let me tell you, the more people that get into your organization and the more layers you put into your organization, I'm going to tell you, the more alone you feel. So if you don't have a business partner that's in the day to day with you that you can interact with, it gets tough. And the bigger the results get, the bigger the organization gets, the less you can actually talk to everybody there. Because of the simple thing, like I said, you can't make your team, who you need to go execute specific things constantly and get things rolling. You can't use them as a sounding board, and you can't show your frustration. You can't. Your emotion in general needs to stay in check. And so there's a cool camaraderie that can happen with a coach, again, because they've been there, right? And then you're connected, and it's somebody else that you can talk to. And then finally, networking and referrals is an interesting one, where many times if a coach is engaged with you, potentially maybe it's vendor referrals for, I don't know, accounting or an attorney, or for some kind of marketing, or maybe like website development. But many times a good coach can actually network you to like other peers that you should get to know, or they might put you in a Facebook group or in a group coaching situation where you meet other like-minded people, and they might also refer vendors to you, or different people for you to connect. Could be referrals of books or trainings or things like that, but it's just a good source of rounding out your network and your resources as far as like vendors and kind of your power team when you have the right coach who's engaged. And so this, on the top end there, let's just summarize real quick. We talked about instruction, advice, and accountability. These are bare minimum, got to have them pieces in a coach. Now, secondarily, I've talked about a sounding board, affirmation, camaraderie, and the networking referral piece. And so there's 4 more kind of like soft, less known benefits from having the right coach. So all of that together, if you kind of find like a super fit, and you can get all of this, it makes a lot of sense to have in your business. I mean, if you think about it, it's the cliche thing, like people say this all the time, but like think of the Super Bowl without coaches. As good as Tom Brady is, and I think last year with him winning another championship, we found out that maybe Bill Belichick wasn't as important if you're a sports fan. Although I do think Bill played a vital role in that dynasty. And whether it's, any other coaches or Bill Belichick, nobody wants Tom Brady to roll into the Super Bowl and not have any coaches, because there's just so many other intangible things that you need a coach for. And I'll tell you, out of those top ones I just gave you, so I gave you 7 things. I think accountability is one of the most important, because as an entrepreneur, a lot of times it's really easy to not hold yourself accountable like you would other people. But again, finding all of those pieces in a coach can be very, very beneficial to you. I think it gives you 3 things if you're taking notes. Obviously, it gives you insight, right? With the advice, the instruction, and the information, but it also gives you deep clarity and focus. And so that clarity and focus, we can tend to get skewed as entrepreneurs, and we're in the weeds, and then we go way up in the clouds. Then we're in the weeds and way up in the clouds. Not to mention that usually goes with the roller coaster of cash flow, right? And how business goes, we go. How our bank account goes, we go. Our mood goes up and down with our bank balance, our checking account balance. But we also might have blinders on because we don't know what we don't know. And especially when we're fighting shiny object syndrome or constant distraction. And we might put blinders on thinking it's a good thing, but it might not always be a good thing. And when we focus, if we know what to focus on and when to focus, we can lean into that. And so that'll help us get more of what matters done. So that the three things I'm talking about here that should be outcomes from good coaching, number one is, again, clarity. And then the focus piece, where you can zero in on this is what I got to do right now, because we get stuck in the weeds, like I said, and we start to make the craziest decisions as business owners, right? And if you look back like 6 months later and you're like, what was I thinking? Like, why did I do it? Why did I hire this person? Or why did I change this job? Or I should have never done this. It's because we have this skewed thinking. And I'll tell you, another big piece, the other big component is conviction. And so it's just, conviction is a certainty. Like, you can be very convicted in what you need to do. It's partially stroking a check, but having a paid coach in place can give you, like I said before, a lot of confidence, the affirmation piece, but it can create conviction in your business. So with the clarity and the focus and the conviction, and you start to see the benefit. A lot of times, I'll tell you, some of the best coaches I've had the loosest coaching programs. And, maybe besides a couple like zingers here and there, like, dude, this Steve, and pound the fist and tell me something. But other than that, a lot of times they don't tell me stuff I haven't heard before. But it's just about knowing which thing to listen to at what time and where to shift your focus and getting really clear. And then again, having that accountability piece. It's like if you're going to go work out and you got a workout partner who's going to show up at the gym and you don't want to let them down, right? And you wake up in the morning and you just want to hit snooze. If you're going to the gym by yourself, you're way more likely to hit snooze and be okay with that than if someone is getting up and taking the time and they're showing up at the gym to meet you and you can't let them down. You're almost always, more apt to show up if you got somebody waiting on you. And that's the same thing with a business coach. There's been so many masterminds where in coaching programs where I know, because I've got an impending coaching meeting with someone, I'm getting emails from at like midnight or 2 a.m, or I'm getting a bunch of frantic messages leading up to the event or the coaching call, because that deadline, that finish line gave them something to work towards. So they couldn't justify like, oh, I got to kick the can a little bit here and I'll get to it when I get to it. They justify, I've got more important things to do right now. But especially when you have, someone you're really clicking with and you have all those things, the accountability, advice, instruction, whatever, you don't want to let that person down, and you do believe in what they're telling you. And then you put a finish line to it. That drives a lot of results. So keep that in mind. So here's a couple things that are super intangible. These are just some outliers that I've learned from my coaches over, a couple of these, I guess, are pretty normal, you might think of, but in a coach, the things that I've liked a lot of that are outside of the tactical strategic stuff, the more like touchy feely, but there's two things: motivation and inspiration. Your coach should definitely be motivating you and inspiring you. Like when you hang the phone up with the right coach, you should feel like a couple different things. One is a little bit of peace and calm. And number two, like is a refocus, like, all right, I can do this, right? Like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get on it, and I'm going to make this happen, right? You get this motivation. And then the inspiration is like getting excited. And so if you've got a business coach or you're thinking about working with somebody and it's kind of like ho hum, like they don't really inspire me, they don't blow my mind when I talk to them, they don't say things that make me think, man, that's exactly what I need. Like I need that when they see them talking, right? So just be really careful if you're not getting those two things. This third thing though is kind of interesting. We've realized over time, it's been like this outside third party, when we edify to our team members in our different businesses, our coach, we talk about whichever one it is at any given time, depending on what the business is. But it's like, hey, our coach, we're going to meet our coach. We got a thing with our coach. Our coach talked to us about that, or we're in a meeting and the team is like, hey, what do you think we should do? We'll say, hey, we'll talk to our coach about it. Right. And so it creates this authority and clout. And it's kind of interesting because we call it the second voice in our real estate business, but it's when this like other party jumps into the A to B, conversation or negotiation, and then another person jumps in, kind of like at a car dealership, where you're talking to the sales rep and they're like, well, let me go talk to my sales manager. It's like the mysterious sales manager behind a curtain in the back, right? There's just a different level of authority. And so the second voice has been pretty cool for us within our teams to be like, look, we're committed to this and this is why. And it came from the coach, right? And so that's been a kind of a cool benefit. So if you guys have any Q&A, by the way, everyone's been super silent here on Q&A. So let me know if you guys got any questions, but here's what I would look for when I'm trying to make a decision. Number one, first and foremost, is I would be looking for someone who I respect and I'm excited to work with. I mean, out of the absolute gate, if you don't respect and you're not excited about working with that person, that is the number one check mark that I would put on there. Now, after that, there's other things I care about, but I can't get past that piece because coaching is so important to me that I've got to hold the person I'm hiring in high regard, and I've got to feel good and want to be connecting with them. So secondly, I would be making sure that I'm personally connecting with them. I would want to feel engaged and connected with that person. Again, if it's just thrown up on the screen on a Facebook, or it's just videos, or it's like log into the portal and there's no personal connection, like you can't pick the phone up and call the person, or they don't have a way of like messaging them when you need to, I would be really leery. That's one box I always look to check. Along those lines, I make sure that I'm not going to get pawned off into some kind of other coach. And I'm not saying that's bad, by the way, because a lot of times when coaching programs escalate to a certain level, there has to be a new tier of coaches brought in, but you should know what you're getting into. And so if you're going to sign up for like John Smith coaching, but Bob Jones is going to coach you and you like John Smith, like I would want to talk to Bob Jones. If that's going to be your coach, you need to meet with that person and be excited about them and respect them and want to work with them. Realizing that they're coming out of this coaching tree, right? In the philosophies you've already signed up for. But again, you need that connection with the person you're actually going to be working with. This kind of goes without saying, but I want to make sure I like the person. Like when I talk to them, do I feel good? Like, do I kind of like talking to them as if we're friends, right? Or could be friends. That's important for me. And then finally, I'm looking for a 5 to 10x return, to probably a 10x, but it just depends on what level you're getting in at. But I'm looking for a 5 to 10 times return. So if I'm going to spend 10 grand, I'm looking for 50 to 100. If I'm going to spend 100, I'm looking, if I spend 100 grand, I'm looking for $1 million impact, a $500,000 to $1 million impact on my revenue. If I'm going to spend $1,000, I'm looking to make $5,000 or $10,000. And so that return is really, really important. So, I wouldn't sign up with somebody who doesn't check all the boxes, but I'm not just looking for the return, the 5 to 10 times return, because if I don't like them, I don't respect them. I'm not excited to work with them. I'm not sure if I'm going to be working with them personally. I don't check these other boxes. Like that doesn't matter so much because it probably won't happen. So I kind of check them in reverse, right? Do I like them? Do I respect them? Are they actually going to coach me? Are we personally connected? And then am I going to get a 5 or 10x return? I'll tell you this about coaching. This is kind of where I'll end it. And then if you guys have any Q&A or anything else you want to talk about, coaching is a big decision, especially if you've never done it. It's really easy to think that it doesn't matter. But quite frankly, we all need coaches in every aspect of our life. And I always make sure that I have several coaches at any given time, spiritual, mental, which I guess is a little bit like therapy works into that too. So that actually goes into my relationships. So that's relational for me too, but financial and then business and then health. And so there's different components that I have in my life, and I need a different coach in each one of them. It's really hard to find one person that can help you in multiple places, and to have a holistic, successful life. I feel like you need advice from multiple people. And so here's the one thing I'll say is anytime I've done a big, a mastermind or signed up for a coaching program that was going to make a real impact, like a 5 or 10x impact on my revenue or income, or, a mastermind, like I said, or went to a big event, or I hired a new employee, not replace someone I've already had for years, but like I'm creating a new position in my business, or I'm going to launch like a whole new marketing channel and campaign that I've never done. Anytime I've made major moves, I've been really stressed and I was stretching. Two ways. One, financially, it's never easy to cut those checks. Even when you're doing well and the bill comes due, it's like, do I really need this? So when you really need it, you think I can't afford it. And then when you really can't afford it, you think I don't need it. So I'm going to say it again. Like when you really need it, you think you can't afford it. But when you can really afford it, you kind of think you don't need it. And so what's this funny thing that happens all the time is most people live in one of those two areas. Rarely are you in the sweet spot where you're like, yep, I need this and I got this covered. That almost never happens. It's like, I don't have much money, but I really need help. But I've got a bunch of money, but I don't know if I need help, because you think you did it, right? You think you kind of take credit for what you did and you forget like what happened in between. And so just keep that in mind, that like feeling stretched financially is super common. This is why you all need a coach. And if you don't have any money, you need to figure out a way to finance that, or go find, like, beg, steal, cheat, do whatever. Don't cheat. Actually, I don't like that. But just go claw your way into finding somebody who will coach you for free, whether it's mentoring or something. But you need that force in your life. And when you're going to make the financial investment, if you follow the stuff, and like I said, Bobby, now that you're on here to hear this, I'll get a sheet sent out to you guys. But when you're stretching financially to make something work, it's a lot easier when you can go down that checklist I gave you. Is this, do I like them? Are they going to be connected? Right? Am I going to get accountability? Am I going to get instruction? Am I going to get advice? Right? Am I going to get a 5 or 10x return? Like going down. If you can have that rational thinking of digesting, what's really going on and making a smart decision, you can feel better about making the investment, because it's not an expense, it's an investment. Just like marketing, just like hiring a team member, hiring someone for your team, spending money on marketing, hiring a coach. It's the same kind of thing, where it's a little scary because you can spend the money and then you don't know if you're going to get anything back. You can hire a person and you think they might not only give you, you might not only not get what you wanted, but they might screw things up, right? You might spend money on marketing and you get nothing back. You might hire a coach and waste your money and not get back the growth or what you were looking for. All three of those are very similar investments that you got to make. The coach is investing in yourself. And the way that I always see investments in the business, there's three kinds. We invest in ourselves, we invest in teams, and we invest in ourselves, we invest in marketing, we invest in teams, and it's like a cycle. And so when we invest in ourselves, we might learn a new hustle, learn a new trade, or learn how to start a business. And then once that starts working, then we need to invest in marketing, because we need to get deal flow going, right? And then once that's going, we can't deal with everything ourselves. We have to invest in team. And then after that, it's kind of off to the races. And we invest a little more here. We learn something new. Then we invest in our marketing, and we invest in our team, or maybe we invest in ourselves. And the second, once we get rolling, maybe when we're investing in ourselves, we realize, oh, I can get a bigger team and I can structure it differently. Then when that happens, I can almost guarantee you're going to have to go back and look at your marketing again. And so there's this balance between these three investments that you make, none of which will work if you don't work, right? And all of which need to be made with a clear head, with an understanding of what the potential returns are, and have some kind of criteria that you're filtering things through to make decisions like I just gave you today. So we'll get some kind of sheet put together. Hope that is helpful for you guys that are checking things out. And if you're on Facebook and you missed this, send an email to support at the CEO Nation to Bobby. And we'll make, if you're not on our email list, we'll make sure that you get whatever we send out. And all right, guys, what questions you guys have? We got about 10 or 15 minutes. And if you guys got anything that you want to cover in the open Q&A, any business questions on anything that I can help with in your business, I would love to. What do we got? Anyone? Got a bunch of quiet folks today. All right, cool. Here, so Matt says, what about if I've already got a coach that I'm working with and then I find a better opportunity? Okay, Matt, I think I'm paraphrasing here, but I think Matt's basically saying, if I'm already working with one person and my commitment's not over with that person, should I commit to this new opportunity with a new coach? If I got that wrong, let me know, Matt. But yeah, that's pretty common to happen, because a lot of times what happens on the back end of a relationship, especially, everyone's pretty much got a shelf life. And pretty much anyone who I've coached with, after that, I've gotten into the mastermind with them, or I've parted ways and not talked to him anymore. Sometimes it's just kind of how it is. Like Kent Clothier was one of my private coaches at one point in time. We're business partners now. Not only am I in a mastermind with him and help coordinate some of those things, but we own a business together. I've got other coaches. I've got guys that coached me like 15 years ago at the eMyth coaching program, one of which I was talking to me about coming on as a coach at the CEO Nation. It's kind of funny. But either way, there's this shelf life to a relationship that eventually, usually works really well for a period of time. And then at some point it makes sense to kind of, you reinvent where you're at, and you refocus. What I would say is, Matt, I would be really clear if you got what you really wanted out of this initial current coach. And if you haven't, and you've got a long runway left in your coaching program there, I would be talking to them as to why you're trying to look for somebody new. Like, what is it about this new person that you're not getting with your current person? Because maybe there's just some misaligned expectations here, and you can fix that. Or if you're coming to an end on this initial relationship and you think you kind of squeeze the juice out of that, and the second opportunity is just something different that you can't get here, cool. Just have a conversation with both parties about what's really going on and see what they think, and make sure everybody's on the same plan. Because I have been in two different coaching programs in the past where I was getting like conflicting, like butting heads information, and that kind of sucked. Like, it was really funny because one guy was like, don't you dare hire the first person that you interview. We happened to be talking about hiring in both programs at the same time. And he was like, you need to 10 candidates minimum, because if you hire one person, you don't know what you're missing. And so, or you won't appreciate what you got. So fully interview 10 people. That way you have more context to understand what you're getting into. Literally in the same breath, the other guy, which the first one, by the way, was a private mastermind with a guy that I highly, highly respected that had a coaching element. And at the same time, I was in eMyth coaching, which I was just talking about. And they were like, listen, you don't have time to jack around in interviews. You need to use really hard filters, by the way, which was a little bit of what I started to learn that later became part of Team Architects, our company that does all the assessments for building teams. But was like, look, put really good filters in place, and the first person that you meet that checks all the boxes, you snap them up and quit. Don't be waiting around, second guessing yourself. You take them, you run with it, and you get going. And so I was trying to like bridge the gap there and understand, which one's better, right? So just be careful you don't get into that boat, Matt, where you're like, things are butting heads. And hopefully it helps. So Lindsay said, what about expectations on the timeline to see with results? As you know, Steve, everything seems urgent when your business is in trouble. Yep. So quite frankly, there's a couple of different kinds of coaching. And so this is really important for you guys. I'm glad you asked that question, Lindsay. Don't mix the idea of training with coaching. So training would be imparting certain knowledge on you that you got to implement and go run with. Coaching, at least the way that I see it and the way that I run it would be that we have a structure and a framework, and the ultimate goal is to get to a certain place. But part of getting there would be handling anything that's currently going on. And so I leave a flexibility component open, because why would you want to be building out branding or like, marketing campaigns or whatever if you got cash flow issues and you're like, that all sounds good for for next quarter, but I don't know if I'm going to be in business because I've got, issues right now. And so mine is about looking at the big picture. And remember, I said there's an assessment, an audit component. Part of that is like, where do we need to start? When I first started coaching, well, in fact, I'll tell you, one of the things that lured me into the highest coaching I've had was 100 grand a year. And I was lured in by this concept of like an expert of showing me how to like bolt revenue on and like buy businesses and grow, like scale, like by owning multiple businesses, and how to buy your vendors and like do all this really cool stuff. But when we went through a deep level audit, which is very similar to what I do, and part of what I learned is from this coaching that I was in, we got stuck on the business model when we were breaking down what exactly do you do and how do you do it, so we can get really clear on who you are and what's going on. And then we'll head which direction you're talking about. Well, we broke down during that component because we realized there were some major inefficiencies. And this is with our real estate business. There were some major inefficiencies in our business, and we got hung up there for several months, but it was the best thing that could ever happen. So in one respect, I was a little frustrated because I wanted this bigger picture stuff and this longer term stuff and more cool and fun stuff to come to fruition. But in reality, like, we did some boring in the weeds, like grunt work with our business model that bared a ton of fruit because it fixed our foundation. We didn't realize that we were on a shaky foundation that was pretty solid where we were. But if we would have scaled up, it was just going to require us to build our foundation wider and wider and wider and wider, because it wasn't strong enough to stay stable and go way up. It caused, I don't know if that makes sense, Valencia, but we were going to have to build a lot of foundation out to build for the growth upwards. And so it wasn't really scaling, it was just growing. And again, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to do some like fun, cool stuff, but we just had to make a, kind of an alternate, we had to call an audible, so to speak. And I think in a program that you're working in, especially if you're in a position, I know you have some things with some like possible changes and growth and this cool stuff, Valencia, from talking to you in the past. I would say if you're going to do some kind of coaching program, I would just make sure they know that ahead of time. Like, look, this is, although I want this cool business stuff, like this is a paramount piece for me, is to handle this cash flow issue, or I can't remember how you put it. Or you said business in trouble. Like, I don't know, whatever the trouble is, that just needs to be upfront and very transparent on your part with whoever you're working with, and say, hey, I need to help with this. Can you help me with this? And that just needs to be part of the deal. And if it's a coach, not a trainer, if it's a coach, they should be able to help if they're the right coach. If they say, I've never had that problem or haven't dealt with that, then they're not the right coach, right? All right, cool. Anyone else got anything? Good questions, guys. All right, hit Bobby up if you guys need something at support at the CEO Nation. Hit the link, theceonation.com/links, LINKS, and we'll get some kind of overview out that has the checklist. But just remember, today we talked about a few different things. I'm going to kind of recap it. We talked about kind of the core minimum you're looking for is advice, instruction, accountability, right? But after that, there's a sounding board for ideas, an affirmation of like what's working well, and building your confidence. Networking and referrals was another piece, and then camaraderie, which was, I know, it's probably a little bit maybe not what you guys were thinking, but that's pretty cool, and it will give you clarity, focus, and help you guys with conviction in your business, so that you can kind of cut through the crap. If you can get those 7 things I said out of a coach, the ability to like take this energy you're putting out, right, and like zero it in to like a laser, is really, really powerful and creates a lot of results. And so don't forget, though, that we also talked about how we are looking for someone that we respect, that can motivate and inspire us, and then can be a second voice kind of in our business or with our partners or with our teams. This outside third party authority. We want to make sure they're likable. We want to make sure our personalities collect. We also want to make sure that we're actually connecting with them, or if it's not them, we know well who the person is that we're going to connect with and that we're engaging with. And don't forget, two components. This is an investment, and any investment that I've ever made that was kind of a big potential game changer was hard to do, especially financially, but also from a time commitment. So investing in this, though, should be giving you some kind of return. And I'm always looking for 5 to 10. And the reality is anything that I do, whether I'm paying for it for me or my business is one of them, or if I put a product or coaching program out, I'm looking to make sure that it's at least a 10x, return for folks who are able to engage and execute on it. So it is a stretch and a big investment to put in, but if you're going to get 5 or 10x your back on your money, that's an investment that's worth it. It's very similar to investing in employees. You should be getting a 2 or 3 on the low end times return for what you spend annually for that employee, impact on the bottom line, up to a 8 or 10 times return for, some kind of sales rep, maybe even more. Similar to marketing. A lot of us are looking for 3 to 4 to 5 to 6x. If I spend $1 in marketing, I'm looking to get 3, 4, 5 back. Some people, like with internet marketing, are really great and they can get $10, $15, $20 back for every dollar they spend. Now, if it's all pay-per-click and social media, you might spike at that, and then you might have times where you're spending money and you don't get anything back. So we're really looking at the average over time. If I can get like $4 to $6 back for every dollar I spend, that's pretty good. So all of these, investing in yourself, investing in people, and investing in marketing, are some kind of, risk, but they should come with some kind of return. And the coach that can motivate and inspire you, that you respect and like and you're connected to, and he has those 7 things, the advice, the instruction, all that stuff we talked about, can really help you get there. So I hope this helps. We have a lot of people ask us about this, and so I feel like I've told this, what I've talked about in the last hour, I think I've talked about it like 1,000 times over the last few years. When people are like, hey, should I do this program? And it's really hard for me, if I don't know the program or don't know the people, to say yes or no. But I can give you my criteria for how to vet those out so that you can make a smart decision about it. So, if you guys have questions about our coaching program or what we do, just connect with us, DM me or connect through support at the CEO Nation with Bobby. Or you can go to the ceonation.com/links. You can set up a strategy call there. I'd love to help you guys, but I hope today was helpful. I hope every Monday is helpful. If you guys have any ideas on future topics you'd like to cover, hit us up and let us know. Don't forget, if you haven't listened to our podcast, last July through February, we put out 12 or 15 episodes. Bobby will have to chime in there. That was kind of season 1. So this summer we should be releasing another chunk of podcasts to be kind of like season 2. And if you're watching this replay in the Facebook group and you don't know how to get on the Zoom, there should be a link somewhere in this group for you to register. And once you're registered, this is free. Every Monday you can connect live and be on here to ask Q&A and attend the meeting live. And once you register, you get a reminder every week. It's pretty cool. It's automatic. And we're here every Monday from 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern. So with that, I'm a couple minutes over, maybe a minute over. If anybody has anything else they want to drop out or chat, going once, going twice. Cool, guys. I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm Steve Richards with the CEO Nation, and I'll see you guys next week.